Satnam Aloha, welcome to the live stream. Let me just get the comments up, and it looks like I'm on. Okay, there we go. Great. So if you could put down your profile, your human design profile, and type if you know it, and if you wish to share that with the rest of the group. And I'm a 2-4 emotional projector, 3 parts right, sitting on the right angle cross of contagion. Okay, so today I want to talk about the Mars-Uranus conjunction, and we're seeing that out in the world now. So just a word to the wise. This is not the time to be in big crowds of people for this week, anyway. So if we let's look at the dates here just quickly. So July 12th and the 20th to the 20th. Those are the dates here. So Mars and Uranus together right here. This was a couple hours ago here in my time. So they're already 25, 26 degrees, but they're exact on July 15th. Okay? So let's talk about this from a human design perspective. So this is the transit chart. That's the exact, right? Exactly when Uranus and Mars conjunct come together. So Uranus is the great awakener. Right? It's the liberator. It's the ruler of Aquarius, the modern ruler of Aquarius. And then Mars rules Aries, and so that's our action, our will. So these two come together and can create some chaos on the planet, right? So I want to talk about it from a spiritual perspective, right? So let's talk about the cross of the sleeping phoenix. Remember, we're moving into this cross of the sleeping phoenix. We're coming out of this 400-year cycle that we've been in. The cross of planning. Right? So how does this Uranus-Mars conjunction can serve us? Right? Cross of planning was very tribal. It was rooted in tribal consciousness. And that's leaving now. And we're moving into this sleeping phoenix energy, right, for the next 400 years. And this is individual. So if you look at the, just even my picture right here, right, of the phoenix, that's the phoenix rising from the flames, from the ashes, right? This is you. That's the phoenix is your authentic self. Your true authentic self rising from the ashes. And what are the ashes, right? The phoenix doesn't fly until it dies first. So the ashes are your former self, right? Your former self. That would be, I would call the ego, right? The ego part of the mind. This is your conditioned self. It's your not self. All that has to burn away so that you can rise. So this is our goal. This should be our focus right now, is to be our authentic self. So if you look at it like Uranus and Mars is like the wrecking ball. It's a wrecking ball, this energy, and this is the ego structure, which is this wall. And so this needs to all crumble for the cross of the sleeping phoenix. For the ones that are walking towards their spiritual path, their evolutionary destiny, right? This ego structure has to go. So Uranus and Mars are really helping us with that. So let's bring it back, not so much with the collective, but bring it back to you as an individual. Because Uranus, the great awakener, wants you to be your individuated self, your individuated, differentiated self. That's Uranus. Uranus is the great liberator, right? So then it has this action behind it, So you want to look at what's falling apart, what's falling away in your life right now. Well, it's going to be connected to this ego structure, right? So what's falling away? Ask yourself that question. What seems to be falling away, right, in my life? Okay, and where is it connected to an identity? And it will be a false identity. So, you could be in a job, and it's falling away. Uranus and Mars would come, and like the boss comes in and says you're fired or whatever. That would be a Uranus Mars, like unexpected event happens in your life. But maybe you've been, this job doesn't serve you anymore. It doesn't serve your soul's purpose. You're actually hiding behind this job, right? You're not doing your soul's destiny. But there's an identity that's attached to that, right? And the identity could be rooted right back to your childhood, right back to your ancestral line. Was, you're happy. Just be happy if you have a job. You should just be happy if you had a job. This is what the Pluto and Cancer and Pluto and Leo people will say. Just be happy that you have a job. You're lucky to have one. This is tribal consciousness, right? Tribal consciousness is about keeping the system going like clockwork. The tribal consciousness does not care about your individual needs or your soul fulfillment in this lifetime. No, it's got to feed the tribe. It's got to feed the tribe, whatever it is, right? So you've got to look at this identity, right? What is this identity? I'm experiencing this loss, but there's some kind of identity that's attached to it. And that's what needs to fall away, right? So the new, true, authentic me, the phoenix, can rise, right? From those ashes, from those flames. So I can truly be myself in this lifetime. So you see, you can really use this energy. Don't get too fixated on what's going on out here in the world, right? This Uranus-Mars activity, the violence and everything that we're seeing in the world is all about waking people up. That's the whole deal, right? If you're in your ego, you're still asleep. You're still unconscious. Ego is unconsciousness. It's the darkness. The dark night of the soul is this ego. Right? It should be the dark night of the ego. So that's what's falling away, but it can be painful, especially when we cling on to these old identities that we've leaned on, this not self, right, for all of our lives. And we've been taught and conditioned to do that, right? So you can use this energy at this time. So let's look at where it's connected here. It's the 8. That's my favorite gate because that's me. That's in my sun position. So there's the 8, and it's the 8.2. So this is the gate of contribution. It's the gate of contribution in human design. So this is about contributing something as yourself, which is different than tribal consciousness, is just like completely compromise and sacrifice your authentic self. And do it for the greater good. Do it for your family. Do it for your community. Be a good citizen, right? That whole trip. This is completely different. This is your contribution is really coming from yourself, right? Your true authentic self. So that's the 8.2, that you're here to contribute something. And the alarms are going off now, especially if you've been, if you're watching my channel, then you have some kind of service, right? So that it's interesting. The second line is service, right? So you've got the 8.2, you have 0.1, 0.2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but it's 8.2. And this line, this keynote for this line is called service, right? So it's selfless service. And remember, the tribe was always like tit for tat. It was a bargain. You do this, right? And you get this back. I do. What's in it for me, right? What's in it for me? That's tribal consciousness. What's in it for me? What do I get back? 8.2 is saying, no, it's time to be selfless, right? First, right? Be selfless first. How can I contribute to humanity right now with my gifts and talents? That's number one, right? And then number two is to actually do it, right? And then the money, the prosperity will chase you. It's about having faith in the divine. It's making God, the divine, your employer, right? not a person. So this is what this Mars and Uranus is saying, to bust through this ego that's blocking you from contributing your gifts and talents. And this is what your soul longs for, right? The soul longs to express itself, right? Fully express itself on this planet through you, right? Whatever your name is in your human, right? Your human name body wants to express itself. The soul is truth, right? That's the frequency of truth. I want to be a conduit for truth. And then the expression is going to be unique to you, whatever the contribution is, but it's going to come from your soul. It will come from your soul. So this is a time I see with Mars and Uranus, whatever kind of tower, tower moment you're going through, and it could be an internal tower, an external tower. It's to like, I'm busting through. Right? Because all this is the not self, this wall, this not self. It's keeping you from happiness and joy right here. When you follow the ego, this is divine law, 100%, right? Leads to suffering, and it's going to get faster and faster and faster. This is karma, right? When you're acting from the ego, it leads to suffering. Act from the soul, right? Your soul's impulse, that leads to joy and happiness, right? Joy and happiness. So it's time to let go of this ego structure, right? And willingly, I volunteer, right? I want to let this go, because it's just causing suffering in my life. The worrying and the fretting, all about money and material, that's all tribal consciousness. It's going. So the shadow, let's look at the 8 in terms of the shadow is mediocrity. It's mediocrity. Let's look at the fear here. What stops you? Mediocrity is I'm a tofu person. I did a whole video on a tofu person. Tofu person takes on the flavors of whatever's around it, right? That's how tofu works. It has no flavor on its own. It's not unique, right? You don't want to be a tofu person. That's mediocre. I'm a copycat. I'm just copying everybody else, right? And what they're doing. I'm not being myself. I'm being the not self. And what I'm afraid of is what other people think of me. I'm so concerned about what other people think of me. I'm afraid of their judgment, right? What would they think if I did that? What would they think if I left that job or that relationship, right? That's just stunting me, that I'm not growing and evolving anymore. What would other people think? That stops a lot of people right there. So that's the shadow of the 8. And this is distrusting, complete distrust in the self. And the cross of the sleeping phoenix, if you're going to make it through this time, not everybody will, you have to really rely on yourself, right? Your true self, not your ego, but to rely on yourself for the cross of the sleeping phoenix. This is going to make you self-sovereign, whole onto yourself. This is all about becoming self-reliant. You know, the whole program is changing for 2027. It's like there's no longer we can rely on other people to do things for us. We have to rely on ourselves, right? Doesn't mean that you're going to be the lone wolf and we're going to all be lone wolves, but each one of us has to realize the self. And that means we need to merge with our soul, right? So you got to rely on yourself. You have to trust yourself that you can do it. You got to believe in yourself. And then, of course, you got to love yourself. But you got to know who you are first and who you're not, right? How can you love yourself if you don't even know who you are? You don't know what to love, right? People are so looking outside of themselves for validation, right? Tell me who I am. I'm a tofu person. I'll be whatever you want me to be. Take on whatever flavors you want me to be. Right? I'm not judging people because this is how we've been conditioned, right? To operate through life. And this is all changing, right? So this Uranus and Mars is really giving us a big pointer, like go here, go here, go here. Liberate, right? And so remember with Uranus, like everybody gets excited, the ego gets all excited. Yes, I want to be liberated. Of course I want to be free, right? All those great words. But they don't realize that Uranus liberates you from what? The known, right? Uranus comes in and liberates you from the known. Everything that you've known is gone, right? You come into the now moment. Another word for the cross of the sleeping phoenix. We're coming more and more into the present moment. And what doesn't belong in the present moment? Ego. Ego cannot live in the present moment. It can't, right? It's impossible. This is we're coming into truth. The ego is not truth. It's the not self. It's not true, right? So Uranus brings us into the now present moment, and it can be scary if we're not used to it, right? Living in the now moment. But we've got to get used to these new themes, right? 2027 is coming soon. It's already 2024. To get used to living in this new atmosphere of the now moment. The other thing that we do with the eighth shadow is we compromise. We compromise ourselves. And this is tribal, right? It's like I'm going to sacrifice my authentic self to get along. Go along to get along. That's the shadow of mediocrity. Afraid to stand out. Put your chin out. Really afraid to be yourself. And worried that people may think you're too much, right? You're too intense. You're too intense. The only people that are going to tell you that are not selves. So it's ridiculous that we worry about people and their judgment of us when they don't even know who they are. And they're judging you for being yourself. They're coming from a lie, right? So this is about not being afraid to stand out as yourself. It's not ego like, oh, I'm special. Look at me. I'm so different. It's like, no, I'm being myself, unapologetically myself, right? And it's too bad if you don't like this, right? Because if you're really coming from truth, then you're in truth. You're in the frequency of truth. So the other thing is to not get caught up, this is more ego stuff, into a self-concept, right? So maybe you have a mental, this is little s self, egoic concept of yourself. And it's in your mind of who you think you are, who you believe yourself to be, right? You don't want to get identified with any of this. You don't want to identify with anything, any identities, right? It's like your mantra is, I don't know who I am. I have no idea. I'm changeable. I'm mutative, right? The 8 is individual. It's all about mutation. Okay, and this is very creative. The 8 is very creative. This is the artist, right? The 8 is the artist, creative. And creativity thrives in the now present moment again, right? So it's embracing your creativity. And you may think, I'm not an artist. What is an artist? An artist makes choices. That's it. That's what an art. So your whole life could be a work of art by the choices you make. That's what an artist is, right? So it's about embracing your creativity now. And remembering that we're in a different frequency now. This is going to start to be supported, because I can hear the mind and the ego. Well, how am I going to make money? Blah, blah, blah. That's the old tribal consciousness. When you're in that state of consciousness, you've been hijacked by the ego. If you're having thoughts like that, that's just to keep you away from your soul purpose, right? And your contribution. So you give in to your passions. The 8 is very passionate. Like, what am I passionate about? What zings me? You want to trust that, and you want to follow that. This is about trusting yourself. So the thing is, the old way, the cross of planning for the last 400 years, it's like, well, how do I fit in here, right? Focusing on this, getting the skills so I can contribute to the tribe, right? The 37, 40, 16, 9. right? And it was all about, how do I fit in? How do I fit in here? I got to mold myself like this so I can fit into the system and survive. And now it's completely opposite. Now it's about you, right, coming forward as your unique self. So you're not trying to fit in at all. You're presenting yourself as here I am, as my authentic self. And you're trusting the self-organizing principle, right? That's the synarchy, right? That's the underlying force behind everything that will bring us all together and work together, right, to rebuild this new earth. So to me, it's really about trusting your soul, right? Trusting yourself and trusting your authenticity. And your authenticity is your soul. And so with the 8, you're always going to be ahead of your time, right? With the 8, when you embrace this 8, right? The Uranus is about the future too. It's breaking you out of the past constructs, right? Of this tribal consciousness and all your conditioning. It's breaking you out of that. Okay. So you're not designed to fit in anywhere. You've got to have that mantra. I'm not designed to fit in anywhere. I'm myself. And when you have that mantra, I'm not designed to fit in anywhere, then you fit in everywhere, right? That's the beauty of the 8. And remember that people, with the cross of the sleeping phoenix, authenticity is going to become more and more and more important, especially with this prevalence of the artificial, which means not authentic. Intelligence, which means that it's not intelligent. It's all in our language. Starts to sweep the planet. Authenticity is going to be of value. It's going to be very valuable, right? Okay, so this is about not following the crowd. Following the crowd right now is dangerous, right? Okay. So embracing your uniqueness. So let's look at this 7 of Pentacles. And this correlates to the 8.2. Right here, the 7 of Pentacles. Okay, so this wasn't picked intuitively. This was like a system. So the 7 of Pentacles. So you can see him, he's looking at all his hard work, but he's not really seeing a harvest, right? He's not even looking at the one little pentacle below him that he's harvested. So this is the 7 of Pentacles, astrologically, is Saturn and Taurus. Saturn and Taurus. Okay. I'll get to that in a second. So Saturn and Taurus. Saturn is the world, and then Taurus is the Hierophant. So the world, Saturn here, is completing a cycle. It's about completing, fulfilling a cycle here. And then with the Hierophant, this is the old traditions. So collectively, we're completing some kind of cycle with this Mars-Uranus conjunction, right? That's starting. It's being initiated, right? July 15th. And that goes for about, just for the end of the week, but it's an initiation, right? So the Hierophant is the old traditions. It's the old traditions, the old values, right? Belief systems, letting this go. So you want to really look at your belief systems now. What are you letting go of? And what do you want? This is investment, right? The 7 of Pentacles is like, what am I investing in? In the Thoth deck, it's failure. It's failure here. So do I need to let go of something? Here's some questions to ask yourself. Do I need to let go of something that I've been investing in that has no energy anymore? It has no life force anymore, right? Will I fear that I'm a failure if I let it go? I've invested so much in this. Whatever it is, it could be a relationship. It could be a job. It could be your career that you're in right now. And Mars and Uranus is coming in, right? So to really look at that and discern that, and are you investing in the right people, right? Are you investing in things that are of value, right? It's even with our food, because Taurus rules food, Taurus and Uranus here. And it's the same degree. I meant to mention that to you guys right here. It conjuncts at 25 degrees, or no, 26 degrees. And that's a Taurus degree. So Taurus rules food, the earth, things like that. So in terms of value, I mean, that's what we're learning too with inflation. It's like you really like, is this junk food worth this much money? And then looking at actual food, and food doesn't have ingredients, right? Well, this is more valuable to me, right? So we're really looking at, with Uranus and Taurus about what we value, what has value for you. So are you investing your time and energy into things that have value for you? People that you value, right? Yeah, and it's looking to the future, right? About your valuing your own energy too. Yeah. So that's what I would look at for this Mars-Uranus conjunction. What needs to be let go, right? What needs to be burned and let go. That it's time to move on. And take that energy and really invest it in something that's alive, right, and has passion for you. Okay, let me check the comments here, and we'll do a couple readings. Okay. Okay, Satnam, welcome everybody. Here we go. Good to see the projectors here. Okay. Satnam, there's Manifestors, mental projector, yay. Margie's got North Node in the 8th gate. Yeah. You're here to see unique people. That's your movie. Remember the nodes? The nodes? So in your natal chart, you've got the North Node and then the South Node. So Margie's got 8 in the North Node, right? And then she's got 14 in the South Node, because those are the opposites, right? So in our South Node, we see this until we're about 40, right? And then it starts to switch up and we start to see our North Node, embrace our North Node. So Margie's going to really notice her movie, and she's going to notice who's competent, who has the skills, who has the power to contribute something worthwhile to humanity. She's going to really notice the one-offs, right? The people that are actually authentic. That's what she's going to be drawn to. So that's another interesting thing to look at in your chart, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Christy, got to put you up here because that's a good comment. Where is it? Where'd she go? Christy says, wow, it's ridiculous how we take personally what is coming from another's not self. Yeah. And that's a good rule of thumb, is to not take anything personally now, right? Anything personally. And especially when somebody's in their not self, Because it's like they're lying. They're lying and they're projecting their lies onto you. And the not self gets triggered when they come face to face with authenticity. Because it wakes people up, and it shows them how fake they've been. They get to really feel it. Thanks for that comment. Okay. Okay. Emotional generator, great. Happy birthday, Hermes. Just turned 38. Yeah, you can feel the change. You're growing up, Hermes. You know that we don't really reach adulthood until we're 40, right? We come through the portal, and then we're all grown up then at 40. It's not 20 or whatever, right? That's not the case anymore with the Uranian cycle. Yeah, that's great. So you're Pluto and Scorpio. All the Pluto and Scorpios, the youngest Pluto and Scorpios are going through their Saturn return. And that's going to be very interesting when all those indigos, because they're the indigo children of the Pluto and Scorpio, when they start getting into positions of leadership, right? Scorpio is the highest frequency of Scorpio in terms of archetype is the Phoenix. It's the Phoenix. Okay, so I want to do some cards. I'm gonna dig out the ego cards. Yeah, I'm gonna dig those ego cards out. Oh, and just a little plug here. So I'm doing a webinar series for those people that are kind of really scared of diving into a retreat, and I totally understand that. So there's going to be a webinar series on twin flames and human design. So I want to get my 2 cents in with this conversation because this is becoming more and more prevalent, and it's directly connected to the 2027 solar plexus mutation that we're going through. And these are really mirror souls. Okay, so this is the future of spirituality right here. We're going to see more and more and more of these twin flame relationships, because I was meditating the other day. It's like, it's the brilliance of the divine. We've got the program, the human design program, but underneath the human design program is the divine program. That's God's plan that underlies everything. And so we're going through a great awakening right now. So you think, okay, so say you're the architecture of all of this, right? And you're like, well, how can we wake up people? Well, we can't send them off to, an ashram or a convent or up in the mountains in the Himalayas like we used to do, like en masse. There's too many of them. Well, what do? Well, let's bring this through our relationships, because humans, that's the number one quality is we're social beings. We need each other to communicate with one another, to be with one another. Not codependency. That's just how we're designed. Look at Castaway. Remember, he was like on a desert island on his own. I know that had problems. There's problems in that movie. But the thing that touched me the most was he formed a relationship with that volleyball, right? And that was the truest thing in that whole movie. That felt true to me, right? And that's that longing to have a relationship. Well, the Great Awakening, let's bring it through their relationships. And so these relationships are very, very powerful, and their whole purpose is to wake you up, for you to go through an ego death so that your true self can shine through. So they're very, very intense. And I want to relate it back just with the human design research and stuff that I've been doing. But these are these new relationships that we're going to see more and more and more. And people really need to know how to handle this animal when it comes into your life, because it will shake you up. Right? It's Mars. It's totally got Mars-Uranus energy on it. It's not all kissy. Let's sit on the couch and dress alike and watch Netflix all day. It's like, no. It's like you're thrown in the pits of hell. Right? That ego is thrown into the pits of hell so that you can awaken. So they're very, very powerful. So I hope to see as many people as I can on this on that journey. Okay, so let's go to the Wilson. That was his name, wasn't it? Okay, so let's do the overlays. I'm gonna dig out those. Okay, there we go. Let's start off, let's switch it up. Let's start off with the Manifestor. Okay. So, I'm going to pick from the ego cards for the manifestors. So remember, manifestors, your strategy. And if you're a manifestor, pipe up, even if you're on the watching this on the replay. Okay. So the theme here is about what you're investing in, right? What have you been investing in? What's not self, right? What's being taken away? What's that Mars and Uranus going to take away from you? Maybe it's about wanting to be a generator and not really embracing your type and your strategy. So remember, you're here to inform, share, and then you're here to initiate. And let's see what the ego, what's the greatest ego block to the manifestor? What's the ego telling the manifestor? Okay. And then let's do some of these. Manifestors are 9% of the world. And so they want to feel at peace. That's all the manifestor wants. They just want peace. But they're not self. When they're operating as they're not self, they're angry. They've got to deal with a lot of anger. Okay. 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 So, the ego card, right, is self-sabotage. You can see him, right? He's, look at him sawing that branch. And then the Two of Cups. The Two of Cups. So this is the manifestor has to look at any self-destructive patterns that they brought in from childhood. Okay? So this is the ego. This is the ego, the self-sabotaging ego. And it's about your relationships, right? So the Two of Cups, that's your primary relationship, your partnership. So let's use an example, because I like to use examples, practical examples. Okay, so one part of the mind with the self-sabotaging, with the ego not self, is sad on the external. It's like, oh, I didn't get that job that I really wanted. It looks so perfect, right? I didn't get that job that I wanted. But then another part, which is still the ego, is gleeful, right? It's like, oh, I'm happy. Why you're happy? Well, the ego is happy because you're not going to be visible, right? You're not doing your soul purpose. You can hide. You can go back into hiding. So you've got to rewind, right? You've got to rewind and ask yourself, where have I been self-sabotaging myself? You know, maybe let's use the career thing in the job that you really wanted, and you waited till last minute. You had to write a cover letter and get your CV and everything together, and you wait till the last minute to do your cover letter, and you're tired, and so there's typos in it, right? And then you send it off. You don't really look at it. You just send it off. Like that would be, then the ego, well, I really, really tried. I stayed up really, really late. Well, the ego that would be a self-sabotaging thing, right? So you're tired, you wait till the last minute to do it, you're not relaxed, and all that energy gets poured in that letter, and people feel the frequency of your words, like something like that. So just watching yourself, Catching yourself. And this is why you want to be connected to your soul, right? The impulse of your soul, and that's that frequency of truth. And then you act from that place. You act from that place. And in terms of, Manifestor, and then you initiate, right? Then you initiate. But it has to come from truth, that frequency of truth. So any undermining actions that are not aligned with your goals. So I can't tell you what that is, right? Only you know. And all it takes is just to close your eyes, right? This is how powerful we are. We have our own inner sage within us, our own inner teacher within us, right? So you close your eyes and you ask yourself the question, where have I been sabotaging myself? Right? And then you just listen, not your crazy mind, but you just go to your breath, you go deep inside yourself, and then you just listen for the answer. And the answer may come through an image, right? The answer may come through words even, or a sense, or an impression, or a knowingness, and you'll just, oh, I see it. I see the pattern. And what you're doing is I see the ego. I see the ego, how it's been self-sabotaging me, right? Yeah. And so look at it too, because it's the Two of Cups, how you may self-sabotage your relationships, right? So this would be something like, I know it drives my partner when I'm late, right? 1551. It drives my partner when I'm late all the time. And then I do a self-sabotaging thing. I wait last minute, and then I go and I get in the car, and then I'm late. And there's my partner. My partner's angry with me every time, right? You're always late, blah, blah, blah. And you can go plead innocence. Well, I tried to get here on time, but you need to rewind, right? Like, look at your patterns. This is about really looking in truth at your patterns. Like, how are you self-sabotaging yourself? Where are you listening to the ego? Where are you listening to the ego? Where are you listening to the not self and not your own soul and your own truth? You know? That's what I would go to there. Yeah. Anything else with that? So you don't want to be investing. No more investing Seven of Pentacles into self-sabotaging patterns. And especially if it's something that's repeated over and over, like your relationships are telling you something over and over and over again, then look at it. It's like, okay, this keeps being reflected to me by my relationships. Maybe there's something for me to look at. Where am I the cause? Where am I causing this dynamic? Because some people are addicted to stress and conflict. They get bored. The ego gets bored when there's peace and happiness in relationship, because it needs conflict to feed it. It feeds off conflict and drama, you know? Okay, let's go to the generators. So the generators, and we're talking about this Mars-Uranus conjunction generators. And how it's liberating you from your not self, right? The not self has to go, and that's the ego. Maybe not all at once, but just chunks of it. Like a big chunk of it's going to be going with this transit. Okay. So we're looking at the ego card and see what the ego, the not self, dynamic. What's up for the generators? What's the ego that's up for the generators that they need to look at? Okay. Let's look at here. Okay. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. What do we have for generators? Just relax. Relax it. Okay. Okay. So let's look at this identity. And the ego card here for the generators is credit. Give me the credit. I need the credit. I need the kudos, right? So this is looking for validation. It's interesting. It's a generator, not a projector, right? So this is the ego. We're looking at the ego, not self, right? And what is the ego, not self? The ego, not self, dies in darkness. Dies in darkness, which means it needs to be visible. It needs to be visible, right? Dies in darkness means it's ignored. When you ignore it, when the ego is ignored, it doesn't like that, right? It doesn't like that. So it needs to be visible, and it needs to be inflated like a balloon, right? And that's getting the credit. Oh, the fawning, right? Oh, you're so great, right? You do this really well. And it could be completely insincere. A sycophant could be doing that to you, right? But that ego is getting its hit. It's getting an ego hit. So the ego here needs to know that it exists. And it does that by attention, So you want to look at, too, just if you've got an open throat, it's defined here. But if this were open in your chart, then you want attention, right? The not self wants attention. So you want to look at, I have an open throat, a need for attention. Not good with silence. The open throat people, they're the ones that got the sore throat the next day at the party because they talk so much. They're continually talk. The generator. So this, to me, is saying that it's got to go because it's preventing you from stepping into you're not a manifestor, but this is the Magician card in the tarot. So it's stopping you from really allowing, the ego is stopping you with this constant need for attention. It's stopping you from really stepping into your power, right? Because the magician has everything he or she needs. Everything that has all the elements, right, at its disposal. I can't think of the word. Isn't that crazy? It will come to me in a second. Okay. That's funny. Okay, so everything at its... I've never experienced that before. Maybe I'm getting old, eh? I don't know. Okay, so you've got the 9 of Wands too, which says it's exhausting, right? So remember with the with the generator, that's open, but this is when it's defined, right? Yours is defined, your sacral. So this is exhausting. It's exhausting. So, and frustrating. That's your not self, right? So exhausting and frustrating. I can so feel my open head. People with an open head know this. It's like this thing of like, I got to get that word. I have to get that word. It's still there. Oh, God. Okay. Okay. So this can be exhausting, like looking for this validation, right? Looking for this. But it's not you. The real you doesn't need this validation from the external. The real you doesn't need the credit. Sometimes that drives the ego crazy, especially if you've done a really, really good job, right? And then there's the ego hooking, right? We're all hookers with with the ego. It's like, I need the credit. Give me the credit. I let somebody in, right? You know, when you're driving and you let somebody in, it's like, where's my wave? That's the ego. Where's my wave? Where's my validation that I'm a good person, right? So this to me is saying you're exhausted by this dynamic, by this ego. Like it's like a little child. Pay attention to me, pay attention to me, pay attention to me. It's exhausting you because it's 9 of Wands and it's keeping you from this, right? Your power to manifest, your power to contribute because it's the 8. Right? To be your authentic self, because that's where all your power is. And it comes from inside you, right? It comes from inside you. What else do I want to say about that? Oh, the other thing that's coming to me is words. Just because we're on this throat chakra, right? The 8 connects to the throat chakra, is our words. Our words have power. So if you're speaking, right? If you're speaking from your ego, right? What are those words going to lead to? Suffering. Suffering. Because the thing is, when you're speaking from the ego to get attention, to impress people, it creates suffering. Eventually, that's your karma, right? Because what you're doing is you're speaking from not self, right? You're speaking from the darkness, because the ego is dark. It's darkness, it's ignorance. Well, this is going to create karma, and the karma is suffering, right? So, okay, the ego gets its hit. Okay, I got attention from that other person. That other person is impressed with what I do. Is that enough for the ego? No, it's insatiable. And this is what causes suffering, because it's that desire, right? Repeating itself over and over and over and over again. But when you speak from your soul, right, and it's authentic to you, it's actually coming from a deeper place, from the light, right, from the light of who you are, then this is going to create joy in your life. Follow the ego, it creates suffering. Follow the light of your soul, and that creates joy and happiness just through your words. And that would be a manifestation of the magician. And then you're feeling successful, you're feeling fulfilled. So that's what I would say, is to really look at the ego needing credit and validation. Because this 8 is about selfless. This is all about contribution. And it's all about service, right? Selfless service there. And that's no need. No need for validation. No need for credit. Okay. And it comes from insecurity, right? Okay. So let's do... What else do we have here? Disposal. There you go. I have everything at my disposal. I knew that word would come. I'm 3 parts right? So that's my... I'm in the now. I never know what I'm going to really say on these live streams. Okay. So let's go for the manifesting generators. The multitaskers of all the types. I saw this great meme. It said, you're not, this is so for the manifesting generators. It said, you're not a jack of all trades. You have ADD. You have ADD HD. Attention deficit disorder. Because the manifesting generators get bored very easily. So, and actually, they don't get bored very easily. The mind, the not self, gets bored really easily from manifesting generators. Okay. So we're looking, manifesting generators, we're looking at this Mars-Uranus conjunction and the not self. Okay. Those two just fell out of the deck. And then let's see if we got, what do we have for our manifesting generator friends? What do we have for our manifesting generator friends? Okay. So you've got narcissism, the need to win, and then the Queen of Wands. The Queen of Wands there. Okay. So again, we're talking about the ego. So don't take this personally. right? You never take the ego personally because it's the not self. It's not who you are. And the Mars-Uranus is about liberating you from that, liberating you from the not self. So you're going to see it out in your life, wherever you're feeling a loss or a tower moment in tarot. That means an identity, an old identity is coming out. It's coming up, right? To be transmuted, to be burned, right? The phoenix, you're here to burn it. So you may be dealing with a narcissist yourself, right? So narcissist, this is really the ego out of control. That's the narcissist. It's interesting to think about when that term really came into popularity, narcissism. I think the 80s, maybe the 80s, that term started to come up. So narcissism is like in love with the ego. You're in love with your ego. It's not you're in love with your unique self. It's you're in love with your ego. So you may be seeing this on the external with a partner, right? With people in your life. You may be seeing these narcissistic tendencies. But it's not true love, right? This isn't self-love. Self-love is like loving your authentic self, taking care and nurturing your authentic self. It doesn't require that you are better than someone else or less than someone else, but narcissism does. Narcissism comes with hierarchy. Look at me, I'm better than this person. But it's never ending, right? Because there's always going to be somebody better than you. That's how the ego works. Somebody less than you. So this comes from deep, deep insecurity, this narcissism, right? This narcissism. And so it's interesting, if we look at the 8, right? It's the shadow of mediocrity, which is to be a tofu person. Taking on the flavor of whoever else is around you, right? So to bring that into the tofu person, we want to talk about the inflated ego. So that would be narcissism, right? The inflated ego, that's really easy to see. But we've got to look at the deflated ego. So that's the other version of the ego. It's either inflated or deflated. So the inflated ego is I'm special because I'm better than everybody else. And the deflated ego is I'm special because I'm worse than everybody else. But each one is special, right? Manifesting generators. So the deflated ego is I'm worse. I don't really fit in anywhere, right? It's coming from an ego place, and this is mediocrity. This is the shadow of mediocrity. And it's about undervaluing yourself, right? So undervaluing yourself. And then the inflated ego is overvaluing yourself. So, and then it goes with the need to win, right? So this is the getting the last word in. I've got to be the top of the heap, things like that. And so this needs to go, right? This needs to go. Any narcissistic tendencies that you have of your own. And if you're with a narcissist, takes 2 to slam dance, right? So if you're with a narcissist, say you're in partnership with a narcissist and they have the inflated ego, I'm so special, look how brilliant I am, blah, blah, blah. Well, then for you to play the dance with them, basically, you have to have the deflated ego. Because in relationships, they're mirrors. They're mirrors, relationships. So when you shift, when you start to, like, let's say, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt here, and you've got the deflated ego, and you let it go. I'm letting this go. This identity's no longer me, right? It's not truly me. It's a lie that I've been living. It's my not self. Then the script goes down. And that narcissist has to shift. They have to shift to reflect back to you. Or they shift or they go. That's how it works. That's how the mirror works. They shift or they go. So to me, it's like this is about the 7 of Pentacles. So no longer feeding the narcissists. No longer feeding the ego, right? No longer feeding the ego, MGs. So when you no longer feed the ego, it means you don't give your attention to it. You don't feed into a narcissist's need for attention and validation and told that how special they are, propping them up. Because what you're doing is you're keeping them in a delusion as well as yourself. So no longer Seven of Pentacles, investing in lies and delusion, right? And darkness, no longer investing in that. You want to invest in the light, right? You want to invest in the light. Because the ego always needs to win, needs to be at the top of the heap. Our whole structure in the cross of planning is based on getting to the top of the heap, getting on top of the hierarchy, get all the power. So watch this, watch your ego. It's about bringing your awareness to these ego patterns. Where do I need to be right? I need to be right. I need to get the last word in. Maybe your narcissist partner is doing that. I need to be right. I need to get the last word in. I need to win. I need to win. Right? And just because somebody can argue, maybe they're very gifted with language and they can argue, it doesn't mean that they're right. Right? It doesn't mean they're right. It doesn't mean that they're correct. Right? Correct. That's when we're talking truth. And truth can't be argued. Truth cannot be argued. It's a frequency. It's there or it's not, right? Okay. And then you've got the Queen of Wands. So with the MGs, I'm really thinking this is what's preventing you from feeling your confidence, right? The 8, the 8 is about I believe in myself. I believe in my contribution. I trust myself. I love myself in a real way. I'm confident, and it comes, you look at the word confidence, comes from the root word confide. And what are you confiding in? Your soul. You're confiding in the divine. That's what I confide in. And this is what gives me confidence, true confidence, with the Queen of Wands. So I feel like this narcissist tendency or frequency that's around you is undermining this. Right, undermining your confidence because they need to win, and this is their ego. It's not even them, it's their ego. And this will make you passionate and determined. So it's time to really embrace this. And the Queen of Wands comes in when you are yourself, when you really embrace your authenticity and you embrace your own truth. Right? The frequency inside you, that's your soul. You can feel your soul, right? Feel it. Go down to your solar plexus. That's what the solar plexus mutation is all about. And feel that frequency of truth. That's who you are, right? So that's what I would say. Don't be feeding the narcissists. Stop feeding them, right? And then that ego will start to starve. Will start to starve. So in others and in yourself. Yeah. Okay. Is that it for the MGs? Remember, you're here to respond, MGs, with your sacral. Truth, confidence. I think that's it. Yeah. And the thing is, when you are your authentic self, when you truly embrace that, because the world is starved for authenticity, you will get recognition and you will get noticed, but it's not going to be coming from the ego, the ego's need, right? Okay. Let's go for the projectors. The projectors. The new leaders of the age of Aquarius and the cross of the sleeping phoenix. And it's your time, projectors. It's your time to step up. Okay. Okay. So Mars-Uranus conjunction is about letting go of a not-self identity. for the projectors to prepare for this cross of the sleeping phoenix. And we're going to see what ego lies. Okay. Okay. So the projectors got the avoid your soul purpose card. The ego is telling you to avoid your soul purpose, and the ego is threatening you with failure. Failure. So this is choosing. So remember victim consciousness? This is this kryptonite right here. I have choice, right? This is the truth, is you always have choice. So it's choosing not to do your soul purpose, right? So maybe you're procrastinating on your soul purpose. Maybe maybe you've been getting intuitive guidance, right, about your soul purpose, but you've been procrastinating. Maybe Maya still has a hold on you. The Matrix still has a hold on you with all the sweeties, right? All of its little temptations in the Maya, right? Maybe it's still pulling you in. Because projectors have a big destiny, and this isn't coming from ego. They've got a big destiny because they're here to guide the other types. And it's a humble position, servant leadership, because the projectors need the other types and the other types need the projectors. The projectors can see the patterns. So maybe you're avoiding that, right? Maybe you're hiding out as a projector. Maybe you're not letting yourself be seen. You're not letting people see your gifts and talents. So avoiding the soul purpose. And then this is the belief pattern. That you're a failure, that you'll fail. And isn't that interesting, eh? Because the Seven of Pentacles, this is another, the Thoth deck calls it failure, right? I've invested all of this time and energy into this, and there's nothing's coming to fruition. I wasted my time, I failed. So maybe you're at a point in your life where you have been investing a lot, maybe in your studies or whatever you're doing, because the projector has to study, or a relationship, right? Something that you've been investing your time and energy into, and then there's this ego that's telling you that you're a failure. You're a failure, you can't succeed. And it wants you to stop trying. Right? Stop trying. I'm not going to do this anymore. It's not bringing anything back. Remember, this is the 8.2. This is the line of service. The 8.2, the line of service. And this goes back to tribal consciousness. Now, this failure comes from your ancestors. It's an ancient fear, right? It comes from your ancestors. And your ancestors come from tribal consciousness. And that was a huge fear of our ancestors. Because to fail would be kicked out of the tribe, whatever that is, right? You wouldn't survive. And that correlates to the 32, right? And off the spleen here, that's the fear of failure. So this is the belief. So it makes you avoid stepping forward. Right? Stepping forward in your soul purpose. So again, look at, because the projector has to be recognized and then invite it. So maybe you already got the invitation. Some kind of invitation came from you, but you're not stepping forward. Maybe you know that there's something that's on your destiny path and you're still not stepping forward because you fear this failure. So you've got to feel it. Right? You've got to face it. You've got to face this failure. And really, it's just the ego, right? It's just the ego threatening you with failure, right? So it's like feeling the shame, right? This underlying this is shame, like feeling the shame. And it's not your shame, it's your ancestor's shame, right? And then you've got the King of Cups. The King of Cups. So this is balanced head and heart. Devoted advisor, counselor, the King of Cups. And this is leading with emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence. And this is the solar plexus mutation, right? So it's your head and heart together, working together, head and heart. I feel like that's the guidance, is to go here to this King of Cups energy. Or maybe you have a King of Cups person in your life that you can go to, like a trusted mentor. This would be like a father, but a woman could be a King of Cups energy too, just to go to that. It's ruled by Scorpio. Yeah. Okay. Oh, also with the King of Cups is not to become a victim of your emotions. Okay, so I'm feeling fear, right, of the future and what's going to happen to me. Projectors go through a lot with this fear of the material world, and then I don't believe in myself because it's the 8. What will other people think of me? Don't let this fear stop you, right? You don't want to let the fear stop you from moving forward. Yeah, because as soon as you start making steps forward, remember, like I said with the MGs, you follow the ego, the karma is suffering, right? 100% if you follow this ego and try to play it safe, right? Suffering 100%. Follow the soul, and that's going to lead to joy. But you follow the soul, you've got to face these fears, these ancestral fears, but then joy will come 100%. Right? So I would look at some ego attachment that you have, that you're a failure. It's a belief that you're a failure, right? What maybe that was told to you as a child, right? Your conditioning to like dig that up because it's stopping you from moving on your soul purpose. Yeah. And maybe this is your gift, right? Is to really, no matter if you're a man or woman, to come to really express this King of Cups for others, right? Wise counsel. That's a projector. Wise counsel. Yeah. Confident, right? Confident. Confident in your aura as a projector. Okay, anything else for the projectors? And just trust that you have everything. This is the cross of the sleeping phoenix. You have everything that you need is already inside you. Right? This isn't the time to be running out and getting qualifications, right? Your qualifications is life, the life you've lived so far. Okay. So let's go for the reflectors. And I always like to hear from the reflectors because there's only 1% of reflectors in the world. Let's see what we have for the reflectors. For this Mars-Uranus conjunction. Well, that's a good one. Okay. What do we have for the reflectors? Okay, so the reflector's got the unlearning card. Unlearn. Not learning, but unlearning something. That's letting go of your conditioning, right? So this is letting go of old beliefs. Old, stinky, moldy, mothball-ridden beliefs. You want to let go of those. Old beliefs, you want to let go of this. So you want to unlearn what you learned. Because remember, even in the school system, if we go to the school system, the true meaning of education is to draw out the wisdom, right, of the child. But our education system in the cross of planning was imposition. We impose upon. That's the programming. Well, you want to unlearn something. So Mars and Uranus is really going to help you let go of something that maybe you're holding really close to your chest, and that's not you. It's a wrong belief, right? It's not true to you. And then you've got the Temperance card right here. So this is about patience, about being patient with yourself. And this is good if you're a 6-line profile, but also if you're a reflector, right? Is to be patient with yourself. Is to come into harmony and peace and tranquility and calm, right? So you want to be feeling all of those things as a reflector. And maybe there's some old belief that won't, it's like, it could be like the world is the world is just suffering. Like it could be a belief like that. The world is just filled with suffering. That's just the way it is. Life is filled with suffering. That's just the way it is. You want to let go of all of that. And so the Temperance card is healing. It's about healing that. It's the angel, right? It's angelic energy. So you want to seek balance in your life. You want to seek balance and you want to seek moderation. So it's not extreme. So maybe there's an old belief system about I have to be extreme. I have to be this workaholic. I work. Anything that's out of balance, Mars and Uranus want you to bring it back into balance and let go of this old identity that's got to be so intense, right? So you want to find the balance and harmony in all areas of your life. Yeah, and find the middle way. It's about finding the middle way. Yeah. Okay, anything else for that? Okay. So that's what I have for everybody. And I'll probably be back sooner than later about the moon. But anyway, have a good day. Stay away from crowds this week. And be very present. Be aware of your environment wherever you go. It's just about just practice now. I'm being present. I'm in the now moment. And if I'm thinking about things, I'm not in the now moment. Remember, the ego can't live in the now moment, and you can function. You'll be able to function perfectly fine. You need to practice now to be in this present now moment, aware of your surroundings. Your intuition will let you know if you're supposed to be somewhere or not, okay? But there's volatile times energy for this week, okay? So I will see you soon in the next video, everybody. So take good care of yourself. Okay, bye-bye.